Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this special manufacturing management webinar. My name is Chris Beck. I'm the editor of Manufacturing Management, and I'm going to be hosting the session today. I'm joined by Stuart Lee, Head of Procurement at our sponsor today, Inenco. Inenco is a business continuity and sustainability consultancy with 50 years of experience in helping companies meet their energy and sustainability goals. And Stuart's worked in the energy industry since 1996 and has led the procurement team at Inenco for about 16 years. Hi, Stuart.
Hi.
Over the next 45 minutes or so, we're going to be looking at something that I know will be at the forefront of a lot of your minds at the moment, energy prices. The rising cost of electricity and gas has been making headlines for several months now, and as high-intensity users of energy, manufacturers are feeling the pinch more than many. Luckily, Stuart's on hand to talk us through some strategies for how you can save on your energy bills. I'm going to be popping up now and again with some questions of my own, but for those watching, please feel free to ask away as well via the Q&A box that you should see on your screen. I'll be sifting through what you submit, and I'll be putting the best questions to Stuart towards the end of the session. But for now, though, Stuart, I guess the first thing our audience will want to know is just why is the price of gas and electricity quite so high at the moment?
Yeah, it's certainly in the news at the moment, and you can't have missed it, either through the news or you've recently completed your supply contract renewal and maybe you've got a really big shock. I've put on the screen at the moment a chart of electricity and gas prices. So you can see what's happened and you can see how extreme the price move has been. But just to understand different periods in time before we go into the drivers themselves, gas and electricity prices were very low in 2020, especially around April as the COVID crisis kicked in. And to give you an example, maybe prices were around 35 pence a unit. As we moved out of that initial lockdown period, prices started to rise as demand started to pick back up again. We moved into 2021 and prices were now starting to push up towards 50. Quite a big increase from the 35 from April 20, but actually at that level, prices are still around a market norm. What we started to see, though, is an increase of prices in the spring and summer of 21, and they were starting to move from 50, an okay level, all the way up to 100. And 100 at that time was kind of record high prices and already starting to cause a problem. So late summer, the market's already in crisis. What happened next was extreme. So if we were used to seeing prices of 50, we'd had a shock with prices up to 100. As we moved into winter, and especially in December, prices kind of started to push up to 400. So I think the scale of that increase from 35 in April 20 back to a normal price of 50, all the way up to pushing 400, just shows how much prices increased during 21. The timing of it was probably unfortunate for a lot of energy buyers who take a fixed price contract because they tend to renew in October and you tend to be renewing those contracts towards the end of the year. Looking at the price drivers, so starting off with gas storage. So gas storage is reflected in Europe, not just the UK. We are an interconnected market with Europe. And many people have asked me, is this just a UK thing, a Brexit thing? No, this is a crisis that is impacting the whole of Europe. The storage in 21 was very low, so we'd had a relatively cold winter. So we were moving into 21 with gas storage being quite low. To fill the gas storage, so we always want to go into the next winter season with high gas storage because that's what balances the system at times of high demand. So to fill gas storage over the summer period in 21, we are expecting to see good flows of LNG And we're also expecting to see new flows of gas through Nord Stream 2, the Russian pipeline, which has been in the news. In about February, though, we started to get really worried about this because we were looking at the LNG flows and we were seeing that Southeast Asia, so China in particular, South Korea to a degree, were willing to pay very high prices for LNG. And the LNG deliveries weren't coming to Europe or UK, but they were landing in Southeast Asia as well. And that meant that our gas storage was starting to look as if it wouldn't be filled by winter, but also LNG would be the import of gas that we'd use to balance the system in winter as well. So that the price of balancing the system in winter was also looking very high. As we move towards the winter, people started to get worried about the lack of flows through Nord Stream 2. At the time, it was assumed that it was kind of the last few legal issues, and that at some point the gas would flow because Europe needed it and Russia needed to send it because they needed the currency. I think what we all understand now was that the reason the gas wasn't flowing was political. So what we didn't know, but the politicians knew, was that the tensions in Ukraine were serious, and that the pipeline had now been used as a kind of a tool within those political tensions. And so the prices increases we see as we move into December are kind of impacted there by those Russian tensions. We did see a drop off just after Christmas, which great, good news. But in reality, it's still bad news because the prices was 200 to 250 compared to a normal of 50. So we may have taken a sigh of relief, but quite soon we realized that the price levels were still troublesome. And we've seen in recent weeks that the Russian tensions have ramped up again. And again, that's causing serious issues in terms of our gas prices.
It's obvious then that the volatility is set to remain in place for quite some time. And some of the people watching will have a traditional fixed price contract in place, and they're going to be looking to renew that soon. Do you have any advice for them? And what should they be doing next, I suppose?
Okay, I think it's probably a good point to look at where the market's going in terms of its outlook. So I think everyone looking at this market, everyone on the call that's got to make a buying decision doesn't like current prices, but what's going to happen to them? There's probably two scenarios that will play out during 2022. The first scenario is the best scenario in that we'll start to see LNG flows consistently deliver into UK and Europe. We have seen some early signs of that where the demand from Southeast Asia has come off a little bit, and we've seen more cargoes arrive. We won't use gas storage, and therefore it won't get down to very low levels. It's trending at a better position than last year already. And if we see that, if the temperatures remain as they are around seasonal norms, then hopefully that might see some bearish influence on prices, and prices do start to fall. Now, the big issue at the moment remains Ukraine, Russia. And whilst that still goes on, we don't see that there will be any significant fall in prices. So perhaps if the price is around 200 at the moment, if everything remains equal, then we might see prices kind of go sub 200. We're certainly not seeing them going all the way back down to 50 in this year. I think for that to happen, we'd need to see the tensions with Russia resolved. And I think the market would have to accept that those tensions aren't going to flare up again. Resolving them now doesn't mean that gas flows can't be used in terms of politics again later in the year, and the market will remain very nervous of that. So that it can get a bit better maybe in the short term. Russia is the big issue. If it does get better, the tensions, then maybe prices start to fall. How much they will fall, I think we need to be quite conservative in terms of our outlook. If we look at the other scenario, and that for me is we don't see LNG deliveries, we don't see an ease in tensions with the Russia, and maybe the gas storage gets a bit worse, then we can expect to see the current prices of 200 to 250 remain for the year. We can expect to see price spikes, and you can expect to see those happen maybe in the normal buying window of summer and as we move into the winter. But really importantly, if we look a couple of years further out, prices are maybe around 70 at the moment. So whilst they're still relatively high, they're a lot cheaper than the 200, 250 that we're seeing at the moment. But if this issue continues on an ongoing basis, then the bad news in 2022 will start to feed into 23 and 24 as well. So the outlook is very challenging, and I don't think anybody can, hand on heart, say to an organization, this is what will happen with prices, because there is no certainty in the market. The market is extremely volatile. Within day periods, it can move as much as the price was in total in April 2020. And I think for me, the question then doesn't become, when should we buy? But perhaps the question is, how should we buy? And that's what I think I'd encourage people to start looking at. It's the how, maybe not the when.
Absolutely, yeah. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about procurement in now I suppose. Going back to my earlier question around fixed price contracts that are looking to renew, what kind of advice would you have for anyone who's watching who has a fixed price contract and is looking to renew?
Yeah, so I think if you have an April 20 contract renewal, so that will be a fairly big proportion of the market. So contracts tend to renew in either April or October. So some clients have got a challenging decision coming up. It's likely that they've had an opportunity to make a buying decision already and they've decided not to. And the strategy has been to ride out the market and see if better prices come. We saw a glimmer of hope in January, and I feel for those people, it's likely that they should continue on that strategy. So as we move out of winter towards that April renewal point, you may start to see kind of a slight improvement in price. So I think for those immediate renewals, it's probably kind of leave it late in this window. I think you're having to do so, though, with a high degree of risk. So you're holding and hoping that nothing bad happens. So if you're faced with playing around this price level for an April renewal, if you want to risk it then and get maybe a bit better value, then hold. But if you can't afford to pay any more than the current market price is, then maybe you should consider buying now, because something could happen that takes the price from the level of 200, 250, and it could go to 300. So that's the risk that you're dealing with in the short term.
Great, thanks. I've seen we've had a few questions in. We'll save them to the end, but please do keep sending your questions in. But for now, if we press on with Stuart's presentation, and maybe we can talk a little bit about Inenco's approach to procurement, how that helps manufacturers, your clients and some of the people watching, to get the most out of their procurement renewals and kind of mitigate any future energy cost rises.
Yeah, so the way I normally talk about this to clients is if they're buying on a fixed price at the moment, I think it's always good to understand kind of, what it can deliver, but also what the limitations of it are. So the advantage of a fixed price is if you happen to place it at the bottom of the market, then you're going to get the best possible price. So that's a great result. I think what you're seeing though at the moment is the market is so volatile, it's so horrendous, and it's so unpredictable that I sit in front of trading screens all day long, and I love to look at the market and wonder what's going to happen when it's going to happen. But I can't tell you the best day to place a contract on the market at the moment, because it's just not possible. So the problem with buying on a fixed price is what you're essentially doing is you're focusing all your efforts on getting a number of quotes from suppliers on one particular day. The quotes generally are fairly close in terms of the price range. You're going to beat the supplier up in terms of the supply margin, and then you'll make your decision. What you're not focusing on is the right part of that pie. So the supplier contract cost may be, in a normal market, maybe only make up 5%. They make up considerably less at the moment. And that 5% is not just profit margin, it's their cost to deliver the contract as well, and their risk. So you're focusing on a very small proportion of the overall cost, when the focus needs to be on the commodity price, the bit you can impact. And the focus needs to be on what the best time to do it is. When should I buy, and how long and how much should I buy for? So for me, the fixed price model, whilst we deliver it as a service to our clients, I don't think it best manages clients' risk, and I don't think it helps them get the optimal price out there in the market. So for me, and kind of a lot of our manufacturing clients will buy either in a kind of a portfolio approach or a flex approach. And the stages of that for us are, in terms of the supplier selection and the supplier margin, we get that done up front. So we aggregate volume of clients together, we go out to market, and we've got a large portfolio that suppliers find very attractive. It enables us to deal with the supply margin and get a good margin using the purchasing power of the wider portfolio. It allows us to select the right supplier, so good supplier and a good supplier in terms of service. The key bit then here is what we're able to do. So we've got a large volume of gas or electricity, and we're able to split that up into different trading blocks. And what that means is we don't just have one decision to make, but we can make multiple buying decisions. And we can also choose to buy gas and electricity, but if the market starts to fall, we can sell it back as well. So what we're able to do with that is start to put a strategy in place. And that strategy isn't the kind of one-off gamble of the fixed price, but it allows us to start making decisions looking about what's happening in the market, always knowing that if prices change, we can kind of change decisions. We can either decide to buy more or less. And what that enables us to do is to optimize the price for our clients. And the results that you're able to get from that more kind of insightful approach really have paid dividends for our clients.
Great, thank you. And have you got any examples of how Inenco have helped their clients, and maybe some of the positive outcomes they've received?
Yeah, so I think if we look at our trading performance, I'm always very keen that we genuinely show what we've done in the past, and also take a look at our position going forward as well. So if we look at this chart here, it's the markets work in cycles, and the last market cycle was from 2016 to 2020. So this reflects our performance over the cycle. What you're after is a strategy that works for the whole of the market cycle, not just for 1 or 2 years out of the cycle. The blue reflects the market, so you can see what the market volatility, and you can see when it's high and low. You can see through the red bar the lowest possible price in our portfolio, but we've also, because different clients sign in at different times, we do have a bit of a price range. So we've also reflected with the amber what the price range is. So you've got a genuine guide as to what the prices we've achieved are. The green horizontal line reflects the average of the market over that period of time. And normally a performance where you're around the market average reflects a really good performance. If you're ever below it, as we're demonstrating here, then that represents an excellent performance. And you can see through the variance between the bars and the market price how much better than the market price that we've been able to deliver. So for our clients, we've delivered, and you can see in the table, significant savings each year versus kind of any of the metrics that you may choose to use. I think importantly for us is that the timing of some of this as well. So as the market does work in cycles, it's the time that you decide to put your contract in place. So if you put your contract in place at the bottom of the market, then you give yourself a far greater chance to secure the lowest possible prices. And if you contract for the right amount of time, so for 5 years out, then you're going to secure those prices on that low basis for the duration of that market cycle. So we really push our clients hard to contract at the right time, to apply the right strategy for the market, and doing those things, it produces the results. And if we look a step further about where we are at the moment in terms of price, so this reflects the current market position. The purple bars represent what we've achieved. The first 21-year bar kind of reflects what we achieved in our portfolio versus the market price. So as an example, if you're in our portfolio for an October 21 renewal, you may have been paying low 40s, so kind of a really good price. But if you look at that price compared to what was available in the market close to the renewal point, so when most people are renewing, then the price around then was kind of north of 180 maybe. So you can see the significant benefit by buying at the right time and protecting against market increases. And you can see how the position is secured for the next 5 years, and how good that is versus current market. If prices do improve, then we've still got the ability to improve upon the price we've already secured. But you can start to see the approach and how it pays off. The other thing I'd just kind of draw attention to is the variance from year to year. So when I've spoken to CFOs, FDs of company, not only don't they like paying high bills, but they don't like big variances year on year, whether that's a big one up one year, big down the next. There's also a form of predictability here. So we're contracting further out, but we're managing the volatility from year to year as well. So it reduces kind of big hits in budget.
Brilliant. And I know that the main focus of this webinar has been on procurement and buying energy, but what else can manufacturers be doing right now to reduce the impending costs of these price rises? Yeah,
so I think the unfortunate thing for people is, if you've bought already and you're protected, great. You've got great protection against the current market. If you have bought and the contract's going to come to an end at some point, or the renewal is now, then you are at some point going to have the exposure. This market issue isn't going away quickly. So actually the cheapest kilowatt hour that you buy is the one that you don't use. So For me, it's about kind of reducing as much as you can do on site. It doesn't have to be big projects. So there are no cost, low cost projects out there. We are seeing the payback in projects reducing dramatically based on current price levels. And we are seeing a lot of new technologies in the market that have now, over the last couple of years, have become proven. So there's much more out there that you can do. So for me, yes, it's about how you buy, and that's what I do day in, day out. But it's also about reducing the amount we need to buy, especially in these current market conditions.
Absolutely right. I think that's the end of your slides now, isn't it, Stuart? So I think we can move on to some questions from the audience. We've had a few in, so I'm going to start with this one. Thanks for sending this in. Could you please give some context of the UK versus Germany and France? While everyone in the EU is impacted by wholesale, what is the competitive disadvantage that the UK has? And also, do you have a view on government policy to support industry?
Quite a few things in there.
Yeah.
The question around Europe, Brexit comes up a lot, and what I'll do is take us back actually to what causes us to be linked to the market to help understanding. So back in the late 90s, we are an energy island. We've got North Sea oil and gas, but we've now got interconnection with Europe. So we import gas from Norway. We've got interconnectors on gas with Holland, Belgium. We've also got electricity interconnectors with a number of countries. So the UK and European markets are directly linked. Gas suppliers can decide to send the gas through to UK or Europe. They'll send it to where it best suits them in terms of price. The electricity is flowing back and forward as well. The price is set by world prices. So we talked a lot about LNG. It's a world price. We talked about the fact it's not a UK-Europe issue. It's about how much gas LNG we're able to land in Europe itself, because if Europe's got a problem, the UK's got a problem. So the prices between us are very, very highly correlated. There are different kind of country-specific issues. So the generation types in different countries will cause difference in prices at a time. A lot of the overall price is about the transmission and distribution cost, is about sustainability, but again, it is similar. If I did have a price curve of UK, France, and Germany, you'd see them moving in the similar direction at a similar time. So the correlation is high. In terms of government policy and how they're supporting industry, that's a question I'd have to skip. It's not my area of expertise, so I wouldn't want to kind of mislead anybody. But we do have kind of lots of industry experts that do sit on the government panels and do try and push our clients, especially manufacturing's interests at those government level discussions.
Brilliant, thanks, Stuart. Hopefully that's answered your question sufficiently. Please do keep them coming in. We've got another couple to keep us going, but now's your chance to ask Stuart something that's been on your mind for a while. But we'll crack on with this one. Our board has their head in the sand. They're aware of the problem of rising energy costs, but don't seem to be doing anything about it. How can we convince the board to listen?
It seems to be our most common challenge at the moment. So we've been talking to our clients for quite a considerable time about the problems and what they should do. And they've, in a positive way, they've made recommendations to their board. it doesn't always follow that the board agree, and they don't like current price levels, and therefore they're not willing to commit. But as that's been happening, both for near-term contracts and also further out, what's happening is the price that they're having to risk being to pay in the future is just getting larger and larger. The way that we've tackled this is we found ourselves having a lot more board level discussions, especially with CFOs. We've been talking to them in CFO language, and so about what the impact on the next few years will be, what the risk is. And we started instead of talking about energy and what might happen, we've talked about the numbers behind it, and that seems to have hit home in terms of risk and what decisions they need to take. So I think that's the biggest positive impact we've been able to have in supporting our clients. It's getting the conversation at the right level, but also in the right way, help the clients understand the risk, and also help the board understand that if you're buying through a portfolio, for an example, you're not just deciding to fix prices now. What you're essentially doing is saying, if I'm going to protect current levels, I don't want those future years' prices to get any worse than they currently are. But I've set up a strategy that means that if prices do fall, I can take advantage of the fall as well. So I'm willing to put that protection in, and that will make sure I don't pay the extreme levels that I can see. If they get better, I can track the market down. I might not get the lowest possible price, and that's the premium you're paying for the protection, but that's still open to you. And I think helping them understanding the risk, but helping them understand that actually the strategy that's going to underpin what we do protects and helps downside, I think seems to be hitting home at board level.
Absolutely. We've got another one just come in. Our German entity gets to forward buy electricity blocks when the price is low. Is this model not available in the UK?
Absolutely is. So what I've described today in terms of splitting the blocks up, or splitting your energy up into blocks and buying them at different times, that is the model that your German counterpart is using. That the contracts in Germany and UK are very, very similar. So we trade German power and gas as well for clients. So what we do in the UK absolutely mirrors what we do in Germany. So yes, it's possible.
Great. Nice easy answer to that one, Stuart. The final question for now, so please, we've still got time to answer a few more if you've got anything pressing. We're an SME with relatively few resources and no specific energy team, and we've had no real formal procurement strategy in the past. Where do we start? That's a nice broad question for you.
I suspect that maybe you've had a shock at the end of last year in terms of the renewal you've paid, and that's kind of probably focused view that you need to do something. I think, I work for Inenco, so I'm bound to say talk to us, but my advice is genuine, and I'd say a lot of our clients are heavy energy users, especially in the manufacturing space, and the people we talk to at those clients are very sophisticated in terms of the market, which is great. But we also have a lot of clients where energy is 5% of their day job, so they don't have time to be spending on energy. And I think if that's the case, my suggestion is you do need to take on board a consultant to support you. That consultant should look at it in a kind of a holistic way, as I've described today. So it's about getting the right strategy in place for you, your business. It's not about what's best for the consultant. It's about your business. It's about understanding what I've gone through in terms of the market, but it's linking that into what we can do to support energy efficiency. So it's the using it less. It's about sustainability. So what green credentials you as an organization need, because we're seeing through a lot of our clients and through a lot of our clients that buy from manufacturers, they're requiring energy that their clients to be using to be of a certain quality of green energy. And it's about making sure that you've understood the budget implications of this. So you know it's complicated in terms of where prices are going, but you need to make sure your price forecast looking forward is robust, so you're not getting hit by further shocks. So my suggestion would be to seek advice and to focus on those main areas.
Brilliant, thanks. We've had another one come in, very, very popular at the moment, Stuart. That's good.
Thanks.
Day ahead strategies. I hear day ahead purchasing has become more popular in the current climate. What are your views on that approach?
I've not really been described as popular over the last 6 months with prices the way they are. Day ahead strategy. I have quite strong views on this. It's the worst possible strategy you could adopt, and I think what's happened over the last 6 months just makes that case. So day ahead, you pay whatever the price is at the time, and you've seen that the price has been many hundreds of pence or pounds for long periods of times. So if you've been on a day ahead strategy, you've really taken the worst of this market. There's a false view out there in the market that day ahead buying is the cheapest. It's not. It's definitely not. The cheapest possible way to buy is to buy at the bottom of the market for the duration of that cycle. So if you buy at the 35p, which was the bottom of the cycle in April 20, the average of the day ahead price over the duration of that cycle for the next 5 years will be considerably higher than that 35p. So day ahead is in a market cycle. If the market cycle is 5 years, it may be cheaper 1, maybe 2 years. It's going to be expensive for the rest, and it runs the risk of being really expensive. So I really would advise against it. I would comment that it gives you no certainty in terms of budget forecast. It may help in terms of some balancing in terms of if you're uncertain of your volume forecasts. At this present moment in time, you're gambling again. So I'm buying day ahead because I don't like the current price. So you're in that head in sand bucket moment. So I'm just going to do nothing because I don't like the current price. So you can do something, which is protect, and then you can try and get better price later. But I really would caution against a day ahead strategy. I think especially in 2022 with the volatility, with the uncertainty, it could be very costly.
Is there ever a time and a place for a day ahead strategy?
Not if you bought properly.
Yeah.
I'm hard, but I think that's right. I think that yes, if you've got some volume uncertainty, then you can tie it into it. But that's more of a managed risk. Just buying day ahead because you think it's the cheapest way doesn't pay.
No, cool. We seem to have answered all the questions that have come in. If anybody does have anything that is pressing, you've still got a couple of minutes now just while we begin to wrap up. But if not, this will be available on demand. We'll be sending a link to rewatch it. If you missed any of it or you want to watch any of it again or send it on to a colleague, you're more than welcome. You should receive a link to watch it later today. Similarly, there will be contact details for any questions. If you've got anything for Stuart, we'll be sending around a contact email address, inquiries@inenco.com, if you've got any further questions. But for now, thank you all very much for your time. Thank you, Stuart, for the presentation and for taking the questions. And I look forward to seeing as many of you on the next manufacturing management webinar. Thank you all very much.